So that generations may flow like the glacial torrents of Canada, nature has endowed certain animals with maternal instinct, a force that will sustain the female elk when she gives birth. On the other side of the world in Asia, elephants enjoy immense prestige. One day, perhaps, this female will be a sovereign matriarch. Another life has been palpitating within her for the last 22 months. In the neighboring forests, tigresses only consort with males to mate. The rest of the time is spent becoming mothers in the darkness of the forest. Among the lords of the African savanna, the female gnu is nothing more than a procreating machine. But from her flanks, a prince might be born who will lead his kind to new horizons. In the Amazon, discreet temporary couples are formed. The female sloth, like a block of patience resting on a branch, awaits every year the baby some vagabond will have given her. Immensities that challenge the very sky, forms of life found nowhere else. In Australia, a rare form of reproduction has been perpetuated. The female kangaroo will see her offspring come into the world in 2 stages, and will keep it near her for a long time, like some outgrowth of her body. Only the stars know why Dara the elephant has moved away from her group, just when she should be seeking out its presence. For the last few hours, her crying, her sweating, her nervousness are sure signs that a baby elephant will soon be coming into the world. Dara doesn't know what position to take, but will give birth standing up, as do all elephants, being endowed with a uterus whose aperture is very low and near to the ground. Setting out from Kenya, more than 1 million gnus arrived in the Serengeti plains of Tanzania. They must replenish their strength. In less than 3 weeks, 80% of the pregnant females will give birth, a synchronization which attracts predators. and aims at assuring that the young gnus will be old enough to confront the dangers of the next migration. More than 3,000 hyenas maraud in the plains during the wet season. There's no urgency, for the hunt will be easy. The first baby of the season will be born shortly. Its mother's name is Lana. She will soon go into labor. Already the hooves of the baby have pierced the amniotic sac. It's been 260 days since Moko, a great elk who reigns over the forests of Jasper in western Canada, has impregnated Mahawk. She has lost the waters, but the labor is dragging on, and so is the pain. From the moment that the pouch is broken till the baby appears, 6 hours can pass. Mahawk is only 3 years old, and it's the first time she gives birth. Each passing minute increases the risk of her baby being stillborn. And the more time passes, the more chance she will have of being spotted by a puma, a coyote, or a grizzly. With all her strength, she struggles to deliver Moko's baby. With all her strength, she fights for her own survival. Somewhere at the foot of the Tanantongdan Mountains in Thailand, a tigress has secluded herself. Under the moon, to which she will owe her name, Prajan, a baby was born just an hour ago. As the baby discovers how to feed, shivers, then contractions ripple beneath his mother's flanks. As if a shy latecomer were knocking too discreetly to be heard. Dara's child has freed itself from the placenta. It's a female. Her name will be Chang. Dara would like to help her daughter, but her body, still coated with amniotic fluid, is as slippery as a fish from the river. So the elephant tries to steady her with her foot and lends a helping trunk. After spending 22 months in her mother's womb, Chang has proven that she has had the courage to be born, to get up, to walk. The spirits have consented to her living in their jungle on the Burmese border. Australia, a female kangaroo contemplates the young being awakening in her pouch. She gave birth to him 35 days after being impregnated. The embryo, because the marsupials aren't born as completed creatures, had to crawl through a jungle of fur in order to get from the uterus to the marsupial pouch. It still looked like a larva, a pink bean of less than 2 centimeters. Clinging as if glued to one of the 2 teats, it will finish growing in the warm darkness till its second birth in 5 months. Mahok has been struggling for several hours to give birth to her baby, which refuses to come into the world. But suddenly, a miracle occurs. With a last push, the baby finally emerges from its prison. For having refused life for so long, the calf will be called Saha, which means no in the language of the Blackfoot Indians. Luana is safe in the treetops. She normally comes down only once a week to deposit her excrement in the underbrush. Today, however, she has a feeling that she will give birth to a baby. A sloth never bears a child in her habitual trees, and so Luana descends from her perch to choose another. Defenseless, offered up to predators, Luana plods along. Why does she choose this tree instead of another? By what language of smells, shapes, or colors did it identify itself to her? No one knows. Between the sloth and the forest, there is a kind of intimacy that defies human reason. Lana tries to find a position in which to give birth. The lower half of the baby is a long time coming out. It can sometimes happen that the animal remains stuck at the hips like that. Jumbe, the leader of the clan, observes Lana. Maybe he is the father of the baby that just finally slipped into the world. Cha, he who arrives late, finds at birth an indifferent mother. She reserves all of her tenderness for his brother, as if her other son did not merit her attention. She does not even bother to cut the umbilical cord. Prajan prepares to arise. Cha risks being crushed to death under 250 kilos of muscle. But it's also his lucky break, for the umbilical cord snaps from his weight. Prajan must protect her family. She hides the babies under the foliage. Finally, the tigress remembers that she has 2 sons. For Cha, life truly begins. Luana has clamped herself to the branches of her tree by all 4 limbs. The contractions begin. The baby is a female. Xada weighs about 400 grams. The treetops will be her domain. One day, she will leave her mother's clutch to snuggle within the arms of the trees. She will have to learn to tame the ghosts of that emerald world. She will have to learn alone to survive, but that will be up to the forest. For Cora, Lana's daughter, the sun rises over the Serengeti in what will be the most dangerous dawn of her life. Cora has only a few minutes in which to stand up. If she lacks the courage to do so, carnivores will steal away her first breath. Lana, her mother, comes to her and softly encourages her with a breath, a shove. Thus it is here, as it is everywhere, for those that nature has made herbivore and potential preys. A hyena has smelled the presence of a baby zebra. The mother has sensed the danger. The hyena charges, but a stallion steps in and intimidates it. For others, born on the right side of the line that separates the prey from the hunters, destiny has reserved the luxury of taking their time to awaken to life. Less than a day has gone by since the birth of Cha and his brother. Each of the two cubs weighs but a kilo. It will be weeks before their eyes open. Forgetting that he should be spending most of his time sleeping and suckling, Cha awakens and, guided by just his nose, sets out on his first tour of the neighborhood, as if to make up for time lost at birth. The world is right out there under his nose, rich in 1,000 smells and promises. Thus is the luck of the predators. The weakest of wolf cubs, with eyes still veiled, can step forward as a conqueror to whom the whole world shall belong. And the young jaguar, surprised by his own daring, can seek thrills by venturing away from his mother. But how hard it is to explore the planet when age is still measured in hours. Born of the most powerful creature in Asia, what could Chang the young elephant possibly fear? She was born 10 hours ago, and although she already weighs 80 kilos, she will remain fragile for several weeks. During that time, such a strong bond will develop with her mother that it can last 50 years. Dara examines her baby. Her trunk activates and stimulates blood vessels and nerve endings. The young elephant will suckle her mother's teats, located just behind the rear legs, for about 5 years. By instinct, she has known from the very first hour how to press her little trunk against Dara's body, a posture which keeps her from losing her balance. Dara examines and sniffs Chang's urine. It's her way of obtaining information about her daughter's health. All of this behavior allows mother and child to maintain intense carnal contact, to which all the senses contribute. To be born tired and to live exhausted. At Chang's age, one needs to sleep, and so to awaken each day to a mother's renewed tenderness. In the savannah, newborn babies have only a few instants to imprint their mother's odor into their memory. Sometimes, however, it's harder than it appears. Disoriented, Cora doesn't realize that a curious female has just come next to her. She takes her for her mother. Lana follows them. The stranger tries to push Cora away. Finally, Lana recovers what's hers and starts off to oblige the newborn baby to follow her. All animals can make mistakes. This baby elephant from Africa suckles a reluctant female. She pushes him away several times. Finally, he realizes his mistake. This mommy isn't his. On the Great Plains, an American buffalo was just born. Suddenly, things go wrong. Another female eats the placenta, which isn't hers. Normally, it's the mother who cleans the ground of any odors which might attract predators. The baby doesn't know what's going on. He smells the odor of his birth, that of the placenta, by which he'll identify his mother, now coming from 2 different places. He doesn't hesitate for long and makes the wrong choice. The stranger has no intention of being burdened with this baby. Meanwhile, the real mother keeps on cleaning up. The stubborn baby starts taking risks. Finally, he rushes towards his real mother. He recognizes the smell of tenderness, which is the same as that of the placenta thief, towards which he takes off again. The situation could really degenerate if the real mother doesn't finally take things in hand and recover the runaway, whether he likes it or not. no sooner born than it becomes necessary to eat. Amongst the tall spring grass, Saha, the elk born a few days ago, awaits her mother Mahok, who is looking for her. If she doesn't make herself heard or step forward, she won't find her. For nature, in an extraordinary protective strategy, has made her be born perfectly odorless. Only her mother's odor can lead predators to Saha, which is why mother and child separate the instant Mahok senses the slightest danger. On the contrary, for most other species, it's the mother's presence which guarantees safety. Suckling contributes to the impregnation process, which creates an indestructible bond between her and her offspring. In the milk she offers, the mother transmits antibodies which will protect the baby from infections. In exchange, nature has arranged it so that the sometimes violent biting of her child gives her a certain pleasure. Among hyenas, where the mothers are among the tenderest and most devoted of the animal kingdom, nursing is a veritable ceremony, combining courtesy with playfulness. Whatever the species, milk brings warmth and sharing, but it also fills an urgent need. One must feed quickly, grow right away, become strong as possible. And thus, Cha, the young Bengal tiger born 10 days ago on the full moon, now thinks of nothing else but of that lukewarm milk which will give him the strength to take vengeance on the world, or to tame it. The capacity to suckle has allowed the classification of that group to which belong humans as well as jaguars. Mammal, animal endowed with milk-producing mammary glands. The marsupials also, like the modest opossum, nurse their young, who firmly cling onto the teats in the mother's pouch. Burka restores some order within the folds of her pouch. Her sung yam immediately appears. Among the 4 nipples, the young kangaroo pulls on the one which has stretched over time so that he can manipulate it. Burka licks him behind the ears, a ritual gesture that expresses her maternal tenderness. Burka knows that her son should be renouncing her milk in favor of vegetal foods. Something's not right. It's time to put an end to his dependence. For the first time of her life, Burka prepares herself to reject her son. Yam is completely taken aback, almost petrified. Berka starts smoothing out the inner lining of her pouch, for a new baby now rests there. The pouch must become a sanctuary. To transmit to their young, as quickly as possible, a reserve of nourishment that will allow them to leave the zone of vulnerability inherent to youth, that is also the endeavor of oviparous animals. This young lappet-faced vulture knows how to operate. One must go as deep as possible into the adult's gullet to get to the food. Among northern goshawks, baby chicks must sometimes tear apart a whole bird. Among Asian open-billed storks, males and females feed their young, especially with fish and shellfish, whose shells they have broken with their powerful beaks. With the chats in Australia, the mother and father take turns so their little ones get all the food they need. In Southeast Asia, the male great hornbill provides supplies by first stuffing himself with fruit. Then he returns to the nest to regurgitate his meal into the female's beak. She has walled herself into a hollow tree trunk, which she and her mate have closed off with a mixture of clay and saliva. The male can only put the tip of his beak into the crack. The nest is a prison. Only later does the female drip the pre-digested food into the throat of the chick as a kind of mush. High up in their land of fog, a mother and her daughter awaken together to the pale, humid dawn. Xada seems torn between the attraction of the world and that of a comfy coat of fur. She will still depend on her mother's milk for another month, and will cling to Luana for close to 6 months. Thus they will move amongst the trees, glued together like a single being. Luana is the mother and the cradle, love and comfort. Tigers put up with the heat, but they don't like it. During the hottest hours, Prajan contents herself with sleeping or enjoying the sweetness of maternity with her 2 children. When they will be 2 months old, Cha and his brother will start becoming interested in their mother's meals. But they will need her milk for the first 6 months of their lives. During that time, they will remain a close family, protected from the forest with all its magic and all its dangers. Cora, daughter of Lana and Jumbe, is the epitome of the new generation who will accomplish the largest migration in the world. She is pampered, watched over, as are the thousands of other babies born at the same time as her. The synchronization of births allow the adults, while they are in the Serengeti, to better marshal their efforts in watching over their young. The giraffes have devised a veritable nursery. Several babies are entrusted to an adult giraffe, who will care for them until evening. Tomorrow, it will probably be another giraffe's turn of duty. Certain babies are only a few days old, with a piece of umbilical cord still dangling. They will wait all day, observing their nurse and the surrounding world, until their mother comes to get them in the evening at nursing time. Because of this form of behavior, giraffes were long thought to be negligent mothers. Far from it. The mother-child bond stays strong for 22 months. Yam, Burka the kangaroo's first son, is having a hard time accepting his weaning. He must, however, get used to new foods, with fiber and chlorophyll. Because, even if his brother still resembles only a fetus, his presence in the marsupial pouch closes off all access to the so-desired teat. Yam hasn't lost all hope of becoming again the child he was still yesterday. But when he tries to take hold of the teat, Burka pushes him away without hesitation. The young kangaroo would still like to believe that all is not lost. But this time, the matter will come to blows. So that Yam's brother might live, so that each life that blossoms might perdure, evolution has favored those species in which the maternal instinct gave newborn babies the assurance of survival. From generation to generation, those that possessed that advantage multiplied more and better than those that did not. Near the sacred ground of Ayers Rock, an Australian brown snake, one of the most poisonous in the world, slithers along the sand of the desert. Two Australian chats are feeding. The male deposits into his gaping gullet a larva, a fly, or a seed. The brown snake approaches. His sensory detectors have located a source of heat, noise, or smell. The male Australian chat has understood that an enemy is attacking his family. He confronts the adversary. The little cries of the bird lure the snake to the side. The female hurries to her mate's assistance, but the reptile has reached the right bush. The young birds are within his reach. The father can do nothing. The female, however, starts flapping around and screeching to distract the snake. Although he is close to his goal, he follows the female. The male comes in to make the snake even more confused. He shuffles, hesitating between the bird and his mate. Despite the skill of the besieged couple, the brown snake stays nearby. One must call upon more subtle ploys. The female adopts the broken wing strategy, which consists in passing herself off as handicapped in order to draw the snake as far away as possible. Tricked by the Australian chat, the reptile will not find his way back to the nest. All is well. The two birds can carry on feeding. Isolated from the herd, the calves remain vulnerable. A wolf or a bear happening by wouldn't even give Saha a chance. Luckily, Mahok is close by, chewing her cud and grazing as much grass as her four stomachs can hold. Saha is hungry. She runs to Mahok. The calf soon rejoins her mother, just in time to see her deal with a smelly intruder. The presence of a skunk digging his den disturbs Mahok. She knows that the enemy can contract two glands situated near the anus and spray an adversary with a stinking secretion as repeatedly as 7 or 8 times in several seconds. One must never let a skunk turn around. The mother must also protect her young from invisible dangers. A subconscious and immemorial knowledge sometimes warns her that any weakened or sick stranger might be the bearer of germs and risk contaminating the younger ones. A stranger has appeared before the lioness clan. He's a 2 or 3-year-old lion. His emaciated look designates him as an errant male, probably looking for the support of a group. His presence awakens the clan's suspicion. The errant lion starts to make a move. The lioness is spotted and attack. The young male will not make a place for himself in this tribe. For the lionesses, he represents a risk they cannot afford to take. Xada looks like a hairpiece on Nuana's body and can hardly be distinguished. Very quickly, even before she has been weaned, Luana will get her daughter used to chewing leaves. She will even bequeath her personal taste for certain leaves, a rare example of the transmission of taste, taught to the baby at the same time as, for example, the art of grooming. Grooming aims at eliminating parasites. When it is practiced in tandem, it becomes a social rite. Among monkeys, to be deloused is to be respected, loved, recognized. The inferior delouses his superior, who in turn will delouse his vassal. Among zebra, dialogue consists of affectionately biting the neck of a neighbor. Among parakeets, couples groom together. The giraffe resorts to the inevitable yellow-billed oxpecker, which rids him of his ticks and smooths his coat, before going off to feast on the hide of some ox. Chang doesn't yet know that in spite of its thickness, her skin is fragile, that parasites feed on it, and that the sun burns into every crevice. As no mud puddle is available, her mother Dara teaches her how to protect her body under a coat of dirt. The newborn elephant isn't too excited about the lesson. She could do without being bombarded with ricocheting dust. However, Dara will not change her methods. She knows well what helps one survive in her native forest. It's also the time when Chang learns to imitate her mother, who brings to her mouth leaves and twigs. Even if Chang is still milk-fed, she will do the same. But how difficult it is to coordinate the 40,000 muscles that make up a trunk. Toku, the young kangaroo, is also starting his apprenticeship. Today, a lesson in botany. His position allows him to observe the vegetation that goes past his nose, some of which his mother favors, and which will later make up his sole nourishment. He must learn to identify them by sight, and especially by smell. After more than 80 days of voluntary confinement, the female great hornbill starts pulling down the clay, excrement, and saliva wall she built to make her nest inviolable. The young bird, only preoccupied with his meal, pays no attention to the light flooding into the cavity. As for his mother, she takes the time to acclimate her eyes to the sudden aggression of daylight. Then she'll contemplate the world which she hasn't seen for so long. It will be painful for her to squeeze out of the crack, to be aggressed by the light, to unfold her stiff wings, but especially to leave her child in the cavity. He will close it off again, to free himself only when he will be grown. The mother has flown off, leaving her son flabbergasted. In a few weeks, he too will take flight over the lost jungle.